We're live right here. We're now live on all.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, and it's the fabulous 50s. So we're going to give it a second as we go, because did you find your cards?
No, I thought I set them down right here. They're right here. Found them.
Oh, okay. So we're going to give them a minute for people to start popping on.
I got the notification for us, so we're good.
Oh, very good. What'd you get on Facebook? So, we've got some followers coming on to Instagram. So we're going to be talking about the fabulous 50s.
Yes.
That's why we have the poop skirts out.
Cute.
So, as we go, we're going to do some decade shows. And when we do decade shows, we are going to do all things within that decade. So, the 1950s are going to have 2 decade shows. One now, one down the road.
Because we had to make a wraparound.
The 50s was the booming decade. So, there's a little bit of everything in the 50s.
Yeah.
It's hilariously comical.
Yeah.
Right?
So do you want to start with the cool stuff or the boring stuff first?
What's the boring stuff?
I have the...
I don't have anything boring on our show.
Well, I mean like numerical wise.
Hi, Mom. How you doing?
Hey, Bob.
And I'm just looking. See, it doesn't show me anything anymore.
I have that up there too, just in case.
Oh, okay. So, anyways, and I can tell you one of the great things that happened in the 50s.
What?
My mom was born.
Aw, how cute. My parents were born in the 50s too.
Yes, they were. So, go ahead. Start with something. What are you going to start with?
Okay, cool. I'm going to give them the numerical portion of the 1950 census. Personally,
Okay.
I thought that
perfect.
this was...
And then we'll talk average pay and stuff like that.
Yep,
so we'll
exactly.
start
So we'll
about
branch
that.
off with that. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So starting off with the census of the 1950s, we're going to talk about the United States residency population. So that's going to be a number of 151 million people. The population per square mile is 42.6 people. The population increase from 1940 to 1950 is 14.5%. But from the 50s to the 60s was...
What are these people? Oh, well, it's a baby boom.
So what would you say? Like it went up like 45%?
Oh, more than that. Probably, well, the baby boom was huge. And those of you who are, my age or a little bit older, remember the movie The Baby Boom. And that was true with Diane Keaton. 77 million babies were born
just in that time
from
frame.
50 to 62.
That's so crazy.
The baby boom era. 77 million. Our population jumped dramatically.
I was today years old when I found out what the term baby boomer meant.
Yes, it meant there was a boom of babies. And so as we get in, we're going to talk about and show different things from the 50s and how they changed the world and made today.
Better, heck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
A lot of cool things happened. So the official date of the census was April 1st, and the number of states at the time was only 48. This wasn't too specific.
Steve.
Hey, Steve. This wasn't too specific. It just says costs. So I'm assuming what the national debt was at the time is going to be around 91 million. And the cost per cent was 60.4. The total pages in the public records was 61,000. The number of people who took the census, went out door to door and collected this information was 142,000, and the director at the time was Roar Victor Peel, and the number of questions at the time was only 20. And
That's all they asked on the census was 20 questions.
Yep, and then I don't know what the difference is, so please tell me the difference of it's a normal questions and then supplemental questions.
I have no idea.
So there was 18 supplemental questions, 20 normal questions, and that was the census for the 1950s.
See, so the 1950s was not only the baby boomer, it was the boom across everything. So It was the suburbia became suburbia. It was the suburban boom. It was, there were so many different
Go over a
booms.
little bit this way so Instagram can see you.
Oh, they can't see me? Hello. So, it was the booming era. You're low battery.
Am I?
It's popping up low battery. You're funny. So
He laughs every time because my phone's always dead.
So, anyways, the baby boomer area. So, yes, 77 million babies were boomed, which in the 50s, our country grew astronomical.
Oh, for sure.
We had post World War, and then we also had pre Cold War. So the 50s was a turbulent time as we closed the 50s with the Cold War. But some of the things that we didn't know happened. Well, first of all, the average pay. Look at this. See?
Oh, I was just holding this up to give them something to look at while you talk.
And we're going to talk about these. They would sit and they would use these. Now, these are actually made a little bit later than the 50s. But these are the style of dresses that they would wear. These are I'm losing my thinking.
Poodle skirts?
Poodle skirts. These are the poodle skirts, and here I have the actual poodle skirt
I like
with
that
the
one
poodle on
because
it.
It's got the bowling ball. Oh, the official poodle
The
skirt.
official poodle skirt. And they are all done in felt, but these are a little bit later. They are a little bit larger size. So, but these are 70s versions
Need to make a phone call?
of the 60s. So, a little tidbit about the poodle skirt that I don't know if you guys knew or not. I know, aren't this Lisa? I'm so happy you're watching. Steve's sister's on.
Oh, hi, Steve's sister.
And so the poodle skirts, so one of the things, and you'll find poodle skirts with like tic-tac-toe on them and different things like that. And they actually, the girls would sit and lay it out and they would actually play on the skirts.
That's hilarious.
Isn't that hilarious?
That's super cool.
So we're talking about the 50s and we're talking about baby booming. We're talking about the things in the 50s that were great and fabulous and still hot today because poodle skirts are still,
Heck
you
yeah.
still see them popping up when they are doing the doo-wop. The doo-wop type parties and stuff like that.
Or like
50s parties.
what's a Spirit Weeks or things
Yep.
like that.
Your average pay in 1950 was $3,210.
Crazy.
It sounds like a little bit, but when you think about it and what things cost, it's relative to today.
Sure.
Now, a lot of people think that everything was so cheap back then. Well, everything was relative back then. Because a car, and this is at the beginning of the 50s, because remember the 1950s was the
Is someone requesting?
somebody wants to be on the live video. So, I just lost my train of thought. I was reading something, sorry. So, the 1950s was the boom of everything. Everything grew big. So, the average pay was $3,210, but it's relative because a car costs $1,510, half your yearly pay. So, at the beginning of the 50s, when things were still relatively not boomed,
Fresh.
fresh, well, not boomed, and so things were, $3,000 pay, $1,000 for a car. By the end of the 50s, $5,010 was the average yearly wage.
And then your car was still, what,
Was
around
$2,200. Yeah,
So exactly
But your
almost half.
average house also cost $7,354. And I got to tell you, today was the day that she found out Aladdin Homes, through Sears, actually sold kit homes that they would just drop on your lawn.
And I made a joke that said that's why Sears went out of business because they stopped selling them.
And they would buy kit homes. Yeah, you could buy kit homes from Aladdin Homes, and you could buy them through Sears, and they would literally come with a truck and set it.
Well, if you think
the
about
lawn.
it, remember like the last 2 years, the shipping container houses
Yeah.
were popular. That's like exactly that.
It
So
is.
it's
The
literally
only
picking it and
difference,
dropping
you don't
it
have to
off.
cut anything because it would be like it would be like paint by numbers.
Yeah.
Everything would be numbered,
You just have to go and
and
do
you
it.
would just have to build it or have somebody build it.
Which, to be totally honest with you, David, if you are listening and if you have your
There's a
boss
bunch of them
listening
here.
to, his boss, he makes his boss watch our show every
Uh-huh.
Tuesday, and his boss learns a lot. Show your boss this part because
Yeah,
that's crazy.
you-
Ask him. I know he would want to just look at a catalog and say, "Yep, this is the house I want," and then someone comes and drops it off at your house,
In pieces that you've put together.
which is still
So,
cool.
Aladdin started that back in the 20s, 30s, and then it kind of peeled out. We saw some that were in the 60s, I think.
Yep.
When they still built homes, but you literally could pick out your pattern and drop it off. And if you wanted a bathroom, it cost extra. Otherwise, you get an outhouse.
Isn't that crazy? Oh, and the coolest part is guess where they were stationed at?
Aladdin Homes.
Was in Bay City, Michigan.
Yes, was through Bay City, Michigan. So Michigan holds a lot of kit homes.
Heck yeah.
And they're called kit homes, Aladdin kit homes. So check them out.
So I have a silly question. Is there any way that you can kind of look at a house and tell if it was a kit house or not?
They really want to join. I've never done that before, so I'm not 100% sure.
So
how I would
it's
do that.
Antique Photos 800. Wow.
Oh, I think that's. I know who that is.
So the only thing that it would do if you did press
Is
accept,
split the screen.
it would split, and then they would be live with us, and then we would just be on the bottom.
Okay, we can do that down the road because I need to prepare for that.
Okay, sure.
Only because I don't know. That is.
So if you are still watching and are interested in being a part of our next live collectively,
Please let us know beforehand.
yes, send us a DM, and then Jason can take care
Yeah.
of that after.
And I know who Antique Photos are.
Bill.
Bill. Yeah, I know who it is.
Okay, yeah, they just
Yeah. It took me a minute to add to
Okay,
put two and
yes.
two together.
Okay, cool.
So I'd be more than happy to have you on, especially when we talk about different antique photos and stuff. because
Yes.
We are going to have a show soon, and I would love to collab with you on that.
Just make sure you send him a DM so he doesn't forget.
Yes.
'Cause he loves it.
So the 1950s, and if you have anything to say, go ahead and just put it on and say it, and then I'll be more than happy to reiterate it at this point. I lost my train of thought.
So while you're still thinking about that, I know you were talking about that this was the time when suburb areas were really blowing up and getting
Yes.
big. Our population was on the rise.
Yes, and I got to tell you, 1950, the very first indoor mall, and that would have been because of the suburbs.
That's crazy.
So the very first indoor mall happened in 1950 during the suburb boom.
Would you say like every shopping experience was like Partridge Creek before, or was it
Oh,
just
no,
the
no,
strip,
no.
like Hollywood
Every
Cross
shopping
Street?
center, oh no, Partridge Creek. Outdoor malls would have happened only where, like, outside of non-Four Season places.
So shopping was just standalone buildings.
No, it would have, yeah, before that.
Okay.
Before that, it would have been, you would have went to Sears, or you would have went to Hudson's or to Marshall's or wherever it is, Marshall Fields. But the funny thing about that is they brought the malls to the suburbs, so they have somewhere. Most of these stores were downtown.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Individual stores. So bringing the stores to the suburbs because of the suburb boom required malls. Isn't that hilarious? What's he saying? We have a lot of talking.
Yes, and Steve, I'm glad that you said that. So since you're watching, Steve, I have a question. Your previous comment above said the beams and parts will have numbers stamped on them corresponding to the build direction. Is there anything outside that if you're a person, obviously you don't know this person, you cannot go into their house to look. Is there anything on the outside of a house that you could tell?
There
Like
might
certain
be
types
numbers
of-
on something.
Okay,
I have Aladdin Home book here I can show you.
okay.
Yeah. Unless he's going to come up with something that says something else. And I'm sure, Bill, if you have something about Aladdin Homes, let us know, because I'm not 100% sure on everything when it comes to Aladdin kit homes.
So did you know that in 1950, we were number 5 on the largest urban area in the United
Detroit
States?
was?
Yep, and
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
we only had 1,849,568 people.
In Michigan or Detroit?
Detroit.
That's more than we have now.
Oh, for sure.
And so, well, Detroit in the 50s was the place to be.
Absolutely.
I mean, we were rolling cars out because the 50s wasn't.
Pablo Island.
Yes, with Pablo hitting hard, which you just found out about. But it's great being young because that closed in 95. And how old were you in 95?
I wasn't even alive.
Right. So.
And like all the people in the comments who know what Pablo Island is or have been to it before, it's okay to laugh because I still think that's cool as crap. If we had that now, I would be there every weekend. It would be a staple for me.
Unfortunately, the closest we have is Cedar Point because I think that Michigan Adventure is even further than that.
Yes, and Michigan Adventures is cool, but it's for babies now.
Yeah, kind of. So, so we're talking about 1950 indoor mall,
Yep.
which I thought was kind of cool. So Disneyland opened in 1955.
Heck yeah, it did.
So 55. So 50 gave us everything we love today.
Yes,
For the most part, the
literally.
50s. Disneyland. Look at this music box from It's a Small World. Disneyland. This I wanted to show you because it's Disneyland. And this is probably late 50s, early 60s. It's got the... Isn't that beautiful? I love it. So, Disneyland is it's our icon today, and it opened its doors in Anaheim, California in 1955.
Wow.
And I can tell you Hudson's Motors actually was the car that represented it. I thought it was cool because we know somebody who has one of the opening posters for Disneyland, and it's got the Hudson's Hornet on it. And it's pretty cool.
Was that like a automotive mascot for them that like princesses and stuff would sit in?
No, what it is, they could have for the convertible one. This was not a convertible, but no, I think that it just happened to be that way. Disney.
This is a very cute book that I wanted to show the viewers because we do carry this here so you can purchase this. But this is Why Do We Love the Mouse? If you flip through the book here, it has a single reason from every Disney character on why they love Mickey. And I think that's so cute. And it's so
Little
cute.
FYI about Mickey and Minnie. the people who originally voiced Mickey Mouse, the man who originally voiced Mickey Mouse, and not Steamboat Willie, but Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
And the man and the woman who originally voiced Minnie Mouse, they were actually married in real life.
Isn't that so cute? It was like they were meant to be, literally.
It was husband and wife, husband and wife. Isn't that fantastic?
Cute little ceramic.
So,
ironic. You know, Mickey and Minnie, I thought they were supposed to be siblings.
no, I think they're actually
Married and have kids or whatever?
well. I don't know if they have kids, but they are in love with each other. Yeah.
Okay.
Queen Elizabeth was coordinated. Now, these are all the things that happened in the 50s. Now, I would be more than happy to show you some coordination stuff because Queen Elizabeth, at age 25, became queen in 1952. Longest serving queen. I was going to make a joke about queens. But I lost it out of my head, actually. Somebody is...
Wow, we have a lot of people. Hi, everybody.
Yes. Well, hello, everyone.
I kept wanting to say hi with your name, but by the time I would say
It
that,
just
another name
keeps
would
flying
just
up.
come right up.
So, 25 years old, longest living queen. She was coronated in 1952.
Heck yeah.
And then, of course, not speaking of another queen, but speaking of a staple, Dr. Seuss. Now, I brought a couple of different kinds of Dr. Seuss's. We carry the entire line of Dr. Seuss all the time. Dr. Seuss's The Cat in the Hat was actually released on hardback. Actually, looked just like this. I grabbed one of our older ones because they are new as well. In 1957. 1957, Dr. Seuss and Random House. Actually, this one is this is the 1957 copy. 1957 copy, the year it was released. Cat in the Hat. It was the very first Dr. Seuss book.
Got a cool stencil book. That's
cool.
That's in such good condition. If
Isn't
you guys have never been to Chicago, and if you do go, check out the Dr. Seuss Museum. It's one of my favorite things to do.
I didn't know that was even there.
Really?
No.
I spent like 2 hours there.
We should do a show from there.
Oh my God, we should.
Oh my goodness. Because, now that they're banning some of these books, and I'm going to tell you, we still carry them when we can find them. They're expensive now.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't make them anymore. But Cat in the Hat, 1957.
Heck yeah, dude. He's an OG.
Introduced to the world. Another thing that was introduced to the world in the 50s.
Was another beloved animal that is also black and white.
Who?
Snoopy.
Oh, well, the whole thing.
Peanuts.
Yeah. Was Peanuts. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little something about Peanuts, okay? So the Peanuts here, which was introduced by Charles, I'm going to say his last name wrong.
Schultz?
Schultz, thank you. From Charles Schultz, actually appeared as a comic strip. Yes, I should what?
Go have a show there.
Well, thank you, Mars. This movie was released in 1955. That's why I wore it. Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Such a good one.
1955. Part of the Universal Monster Collection.
Heck yeah.
Written prior, probably. But Charles Schultz and the Peanuts first appeared in Newstrip, 1950s. A lot of people get confused over dates on Peanuts items because the Peanuts, I just said it too. I just lost the name of the company. Anyways, Charles Schultz's company places the date that they released their very first, or the very first. I'm losing my words. Isn't that hilarious? So, okay. Whenever the Peanuts have something for sale,
Correct.
it will have the date the Peanuts was created.
And did that stop at some point in time?
Nope. It's still to this day, whenever anything that has that's Peanuts related, it will have the date the Peanuts was created. 1952. But you have to look at it because not everything is 1952. Remember, the Peanuts put the date of that they were created on everything they make. But they also put the date the item you're holding was created.
Was created. Okay, sure.
So it will have the date that the Peanuts were created of 1952. And normally there'll be different dates on it of how many times this thing has been made. it's the last date you want to look at.
That's super cool.
Okay? And don't automatically assume that every Peanuts you pick up is from 1952.
Sure.
Some of them maybe, but most of them not so.
Sure, which would make sense.
Yeah, so the Peanuts did make their debut in 1957, right?
Well, thank you for all the hearts.
Yes. Oh, who's giving us hearts? I love it.
There's no.
Give us more hearts. We would love to see hearts on both. Do they give hearts on that one? Can that give
They
hearts?
could, yeah, they could.
Oh, if they could, but they don't. I see how it is.
May 29th, 1953, Mount Everest was officially conquered.
Oh, I did not have that on here.
And it was actually successfully conquered, but unfortunately that person did pass away on Mount Everest.
Oh, he died.
They made it up there. They did not make it down.
That happens a lot lately. So, I have a did you know that's hilarious. I have a did you know that's hilarious, and if you guys got off, so sad for you. Military. Or let's talk about British military tanks for a minute. Guess what they have in them? An ability to make tea. They have the ability to make tea inside their military tanks.
And I thought it was because it was like the anti-jiggle, like you could hold a cup of tea.
No, you can actually make tea for tea time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because over in Europe, tea time means something.
Oh, for sure.
So therefore, it meant something so much that they made they made the tanks have the ability to make tea. I love that. You know, you're going down, you're right in the middle of like major war, and you're like, tea time.
No, that was my first initial. They were like, hold on, let's
make some tea.
Yeah, then he goes ahead
I
and
love
rotates. April 15th, 1955, McDonald's was born, and by born, it made its major debut, and hamburgers were only 10 cents, which I did.
Downey, California was the very first McDonald's that opened. We carry a bunch of McDonald's stuff. I have the old, we have a bunch of stuff. We just grabbed these things, but we actually have the paper child's meal
Happy Meal boxes.
Happy Meal boxes.
Which is really ironic because when I first started working here, my first task was to organize and put things away. And I said to myself, who in the heck would ever buy old Happy Meal boxes? And then I'm not even joking, like an hour later, a guy came in and was like, do you guys carry old Happy Meal stuff? Mm-hmm. And I looked at Jason and was like, there's no way. But this is the coolest McDonald's cup ever. If you were a Disney kid and you remember Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the cult classic child's movie, look at this cup. It is so cool.
Rick Moranis is in that.
Look, and it's in beautiful condition. What is this? 1988? Would you like me to get that?
It's this telemarketer. You can pick it up and hang it up. So, yes, Downey, California, and the McDonald's mansion is in Poway, California, so you can always go down and see that beautiful big mansion. And I think the one in Downey still has the old school look. So if you guys ever get a chance to go to West Virginia, go to the town that time forgot. There's actually a town in West Virginia called the town that time forgot.
LOL.
And it stopped in like 1960, and so one of the original McDonald's is there.
That's a long name too.
Well, they probably had another name.
I don't know why I cannot find it here for some reason.
What are you looking for, a Barbie?
Yeah. Oh, is this it?
59.
Yes. March 1959. Our girl. It's her birthday. Barbie.
And the movie's coming out.
And if you guys remember from last week, my fun fact for that was did you know that the current Barbie movie that's coming out needed so much pink paint, it caused a national paint shortage for the color pink. Any shade of pink, fuchsia, purple was in the Barbie movie, and they needed to make more because they used it all.
You know, I thought it was funny. I want to see the movie. I'm going to see the movie.
Me too.
Right? So, but I have to tell you, I read an article saying that a lot of people are giving, what's his name, blowback, because he was too old to play Ken.
Which, there's not a specific age on how
Actually,
old.
there is.
Really?
A specific age on Barbie and Ken. They were both in their early 20s.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan Gosling, he looks
He looks fine. I mean, I'm sure it'll be fine. But
Margot Robbie, she's great, so I love her
Both
for
of
that.
them are in their 30s.
I did find out, please correct me if I'm wrong, was it the very, very first Barbie with the tube top bathing suit striped black and white? Supposed to be like a little play off of Marilyn Monroe with the blonde hair, blue eyes, red
I
lipstick?
don't know. I don't know, to be honest with you. It makes sense. But I am going to tell you about something about Marilyn Monroe right now.
Oh, yes. Please let them
because
know.
we can't talk about the 50s and not talk about Marilyn Monroe, even though she was not born in the 50s and she did not die in the 50s.
But this is about putting respect on her name.
Yes. So I learned some stuff about Marilyn Monroe that blew my mind, that I did not know. So Marilyn Monroe has always been looked at as the plus size model, right? Because of the fact of her measurements. Well, when she died, they did exact measurements on her. And she was not plus size. She actually had the same body dimensions as Dolly Parton, minus the boobs. So she had a 30, where is it? Right here. She was 5'5" at 120 pounds, everybody.
So if I'm like 5'9", she's like right here.
Yeah, so she's short. Dolly Parton's 5'6". And she was a 36 bust, a 24 waist, and a 34 hip. So let's talk about what that means today. So a 24-inch waist is not as small as one would think. Okay, so Dolly Parton has the exact same measurements, waist and hips. Now, she had a 36-inch bust. Dolly has a 52-inch bust, or something like that. So when you look at Dolly Parton, imagine her with smaller breasts, and that's Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, literally.
Body style. The reason why she looked bigger, and this is what blew my mind,
Respect Marilyn.
is that over half the photos you see her in where she looks like she's a little bit pudgy, she was actually pregnant.
Isn't that so sad? And no one ever knew. She never told anybody.
Well, she told some people, but she didn't tell people all the time because Marilyn Monroe had a condition where she could not carry children. And back then in the 50s, she kept trying. I mean, there was no real like there is today.
No, for sure.
Medical treatment like there is today.
Like IVF and things like
right.
that.
And so she just kept trying and would lose the baby between 1 and 3 months. And so the photos that you see of Marilyn, in a lot of those where she looks pudgy, she's pregnant.
Yeah, she's carrying. That's crazy.
They just don't know how many times she was pregnant because she may not have told everyone.
Regardless of if it was 1 or 17, everyone was calling her fat and plus size and was making fun of her. And like,
there's no photos of her with kids.
Right.
Because it was too hard for her.
Except for the very first one when she became the first woman ever to make a charitable donation to.
That might be the only one there
That's
is.
the only one, literally.
So that was kind of interesting. So another interesting fact on is NASA.
Yes. Okay.
I did not know NASA wasn't formed, and it didn't form until 58.
Yep.
Talk about it.
But it still popped up, and honestly, I thought that it wasn't so much as it was established, but
it just wasn't named.
Yeah, it wasn't named. Mm-hmm. It wasn't official. Like, we kind of just did work there. It wasn't anything legitimate. And then they kind of said, okay, look, we put a lot of money into this. We should probably make it official. And that's when this came into play. This is super cool. Into space with astronauts.
So this book is 1962, and it is produced by NASA. I don't have anything late 50s of NASA, and then, of course, we all know the moon landing cups and stuff. But we do. I didn't realize NASA wasn't named until the 50s.
Did you know that the Beagle was the dog of the century in
not.
1950? And that's so cute because I brought this little Beagle over here to like really go along with that.
Awesome.
He's so cute. We have lots of dog stuff, boxers, beagles, basset hounds, everything, literally.
All right, so somebody who's very near and dear to my heart. Let's switch. Somebody who's very near and dear to my heart was 1950s. She is the queen of comedy. Who can tell me who the queen of comedy is that would have made her debut on TV in the 50s? Who can tell me that? Right corner. I don't know what that means. Who can tell me? Yes! Mom, that's exactly who it is. So, this is what I have of Lucy. Yes, Shirley, Lucy. Lucille Ball made her TV debut because she was an actress prior in the 40s and the 30s and whatnot. She made her TV debut and became a legend.
Yes.
As Lucille Ball. Well, she was Lucille Ball. As Lucy McClanahan. So, Lucy made her debut 1954 and became the queen of comedy and pretty much the queen of color TV, which also made its debut in 1950.
That's such a cute board.
Isn't it a cute board when they go to Hollywood? So this, of course, is newer.
Yep.
And any Lucy collectibles you guys can't see, unless it's advertisements for Philip Morris, which Lucy did, or advertisements for games and stuff like that, any actual Lucy memorabilia came out in the 90s.
Wow.
Yeah, because memorabilia didn't start till later.
Sure.
So finding something that was Lucy related back while Lucy was on or shortly after would have been what she was advertising on. So Philip Morris cigarettes, games, stuff like that.
Wow.
Another thing that ties Lucy into the 1950s is the hunt for communists.
Okay.
It's being tagged red.
LOL.
And that happened to Lucy. They tried to tag her as a communist because she had family that were from, or I don't know exactly why they tried to do that to her, but it didn't work very well. But it did for some. It was the red coating.
Which is horrible.
Yep, and that happened in the 50s.
So bad.
What were you going to say?
Rod Sterling's The Twilight Zone made its debut October 2nd, 1959.
Speaking of Lucy.
That was really cute. It has a cat on it.
I know, this one has a
She
cat on it.
also was a producer?
So,
Director?
no, she created it.
Okay.
So, Desilu Productions created The Twilight Zone for Ron Sterling.
Okay, gotcha.
Ron Sterling was a close friend to Lucille Ball and wanted to do a show, and so they created The Twilight Zone for him. And that would be what that and Star Trek are why Lucille Ball, not only the greatest comedy legend
She
there
not only put
is,
her creative-
she is the godmother of science fiction.
Which is super cool. She put her
Because
wallet up and her brain up.
The mother of science fiction is Mary Shelley for writing Frankenstein in the 1800s.
Okay, I feel that. Okay. Earlier I didn't really touch base on them, but I'll touch base on a few that are like popular
We're just showing
to
you stuff
us.
as we go.
Number 2 on the 10 list of the largest urban areas in 1950 is going to be New York.
Yep.
That's at 7,891,957.
Wow.
Number 2 is going to be Chicago. We have 3,620,962.
Was this in the 50s or now?
50s.
Oh, wow.
Philly, we have 2,071,605. LA, we have 1,970,358. We already talked about Detroit. Baltimore these are going to start going down now. So we have 949,700. Cleveland, we have 914. St. Louis, we have 856. Washington, we have 802. And lastly, we have Boston at 801,444.
So these are the biggest cities in the country for the most part. Between New York City, I think New Jersey was on that list too, but for suburbs. But so New York City has 7 million. I think there's 16 million that live there now, which is double, if not more. Detroit actually went down. I don't even think it's a million.
Because it's like all the new renovations that they're doing.
Well, that's
now.
starting to come back.
Oh,
now.
for sure. But they also want all the old people that have lived on that block forever. They're like, well, we're tearing down the whole block. We're going to redo it. Old people are like, no, dude, I've lived here for like 50 years. Like, I'm not moving.
They
you
did
know
that.
What I'm saying?
They did that everywhere. One of the bad things is they're building it too fast down there right now, and we don't have the amenities to constitute $1 million rents.
No, for sure. Agreed.
Right now, we're on our way, but we don't yet.
Like, some of the apartments are beautiful, but I cannot afford $250,000 rent, in just a few months. Like, I could buy a house for that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we forgot a cool thing.
What?
1953, the TV dinners.
Yes, the TV dinners, the thing that got us all fat.
Yeah, literally. The
Yeah.
thing that got us all fat, so processed food.
Swanson's invented processed food.
And the thing called obesogens. That is a great thing to learn.
You can just call that salt.
Yes, literally. Salt, BPAs, any type of Teflon, those are all things that are called obesogens.
I contribute. Yes, Carol Burnett was great in the 50s. Wait, was she in the 50s?
TV dinners, David, we barely eat TV dinners. It's
So-
very rare.
Swanson's, I contribute 2 factors to why we are bigger boned and bigger skinned than we were in the 50s. Because of Swanson's.
Okay.
And learning, and inventing processed foods and using salt to make foods last. And human growth hormones that happened in the 60s. GMOs to try to battle brittle bone disease, which actually made us bigger.
And it also is supposed to battle brittle bone disease, but it's also supposed to make the food fresher for longer. And you can take a bite out of something and it's not going to turn all brown and nasty like it should.
We lost somebody great in the 50s. We lost James Dean in the 50s.
Darn.
And that goes hand in hand with the car boom in the 50s.
Yes, we have it right there.
Yes. You want to talk about it?
Heck yeah. Because if I had this thing, I'd be driving it around everywhere. So, earlier, annual income.
Being 3,210.
So, this was what? A family car? So, this was what, about 2,000?
2,200.
And that was before the annual cost went up. So, then once it went up, this probably got bumped up to about 35.
Your car in 1950 would cost 2,200 towards the end of 1950. Your average home, 7,354. So that's $10,000 right here between a car and a house. You are bringing home $10. So tell me, do you think things were cheaper in the 50s?
No, I think they were the same.
They were the same because everything is relative.
Yes.
If you're bringing home $100,000 and you're buying a $300,000 house and a $100,000 car, it's the same as 1950s.
Oh, absolutely.
So starting in the 50s is the decade that we started to get into debt. And one of the reasons for getting into debt and living the American dream through suburbia and all of that was credit cards. So in 1950, they introduced the new credit card. Can you hand them to me?
Oh, yeah.
They introduced the credit card, the Diners Club.
Where are they at?
Right. Oh, they're underneath. I don't have a Diners Club, but I do have old credit cards. So it wasn't until the late 60s that they entered that, or the middle 60s that Visa and MasterCard happened. I'm just going to show these right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I do have the original Visa and MasterCard that you would have used. The Diners Club sold. But the Diners Club was the very first credit card. And between indoor malls, suburbia, so everybody moving from the city and going to suburbia, your houses are running about $7,000. Your car is running about $2,000. You've got a credit card debt now because of this. So as you can see, the world we live in today is starting to form through the 50s.
Which is ridiculous.
Which is the boom.
The boom.
Which is the boom. So the average home in the 50s, the ideal American lifestyle in the 50s would have been husband, wife, house, picket fence, 2 children, and a dog.
And an apple pie in the windowsill.
And an apple pie in the windowsill. So you have to pay for all of this, right? So if you're making $5,000 a year, and you're in debt.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
And the debt starts.
And then you're never going to get out of that hole. It's like a never-ending run.
And so therefore became the 50s also was the boom of debt.
And I can see that being a thing. I can see that. I don't know. Is it appropriate for if I bring this up?
The CoverGirl
this-
VIP is still there too.
Yeah, I
That one's
texted you
from
that
the
day.
80s.
So
Yeah.
we got this card in, and I had like an epiphany because we drive. Oh, sorry, I'm showing Instagram really quick. Because David, my other half, and I, we drive by this because our friend owns a bar in the city, and we drive by it every weekend. And I told Jason, I'm pretty sure that this is still there. And he goes, "No, it can't be." I drove by
It
and
is
took a
still there.
picture, and I really want to ask the owner, like, do you remember these? It is taped in here, but maybe we'll talk about it next time. It has a lot of cool stuff on the back, like rules, regulations, when you need to renew your card. And this is for a gentleman's club that is in Detroit, that is still there, still up and running, and they have crazy parties every weekend.
So along the Marilyn Monroe line, let's talk about another icon that was created in the 50s, and that's Playboy. And we carry all the Playboys here. I didn't bring one to show you because we all know what a Playboy looks like.
Literally.
1953, the very first Playboy was issued out in magazine form, and it had Marilyn Monroe on the cover. However, a lot of people don't know, and it was a Did You Know years before, or weeks ago, I don't know how long ago, was Marilyn Monroe never posed for the cover.
It was not a
of
candid
Playboy.
photo.
It was a stock photo that it was actually photos based off from that she did years prior.
Yes.
To pay rent or something.
So they pretty much stole her image. I did have a did you know, but I have to grab it off my phone. It is a picture.
You know, I want to say something because we're going to have a, because this one, we're going to talk about some of this 50s stuff later. We're not going to talk about it all today. But one of the things that, before she gets to that, is car seat belts.
Oh,
okay,
what?
These are near and dear to my heart, too, because, you know, we're going to be having a show on August 1st with some of the MAD personnel, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, because I'm a speaker and on their advisory board for the whole organization. I lost people to drunk driving. Seatbelts were invented and placed into a car in 1952.
That's it?
That's it. Okay, 1952. They were not required for car companies to put them into cars until 1980. They were not required to even be worn until 1990 something. So when I lost my family when a drunk driver crashed into us, we had seatbelts in the car, but none of us had them on.
Oh, no, geez.
Because it wasn't a requirement. Nobody thought about it. Well, it's the reason I'm alive, so it's good. There's good and bad to it. But yeah, they were invented in 52.
That's so crazy. I feel like that should have been a thing, like, as soon as a car could go over 50 miles an hour, I feel like.
Well, we didn't think about that.
That's so crazy.
You know what I mean?
You could clearly tell the world was a different time back then. People weren't thinking about hitting things and smashing into other cars.
You're talking about a time when kids would just go down and buy cigarettes and beer for their parents with a note.
No, literally.
That happened all the way through the 70s. Are you kidding? So, what's your did you know?
Okay, so if our viewers are still here with us and you guys are fans of the X-Files, this one is for you. The X-Files episode that's named Home was so twisted, dark, and disturbing that it was only ever aired on Fox News once, and it was banned from reruns on the network and also all fellow other networks, and disappeared until the show re-aired on cable channel FX, and they forgot to take it out. So it like flashed. Obviously, someone got super triggered, called FX, and was like, "Hey, dude, you guys totally did not take this episode out," and it just makes me want to go and watch X-Files all over again.
1950s Harley Davidson.
Yeah, that's cool.
Isn't that fantastic? Yes, they wore back then. Isn't that fun? I love it.
She's like, I never wore a seatbelt as a kid.
So, neither we. So I just thought that was interesting that they actually created them in 52.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
You know, and it took multiple deaths for them to realize that maybe we should put them all in cars.
And make it mandatory.
So, anyways, another did you know that I have, and then we'll get back to 50s, is Fruit Loops, no matter the color, all have the same flavor.
Crazy, isn't it? Trix is the only one who has different flavored pieces.
Yep. Fruit Loops, they can be all different colors, but they taste exactly the same no matter what color it is.
Same thing with Fruity Pebbles.
Yep. So,
oh.
What?
Did you know what the flavor of a Fruit Loop is?
What?
Lemon.
Oh, yeah. That's what it said. So, hula hoops
were brought to America in 1950.
So, let's talk about music for a second. So, music, who can tell me, who on here that's still watching can tell me I don't want to say that word because it'll give it away. The artist that changed the world that came out in the 50s. The artist that changed the world that came out in the 50s for the 9 people who were on.
I know, I was going to say, David Kamai should be like lefting.
Anyone? Do you need another hint?
They need to phone a friend.
Chuck Berry, yes. That's not who I was referring to, but yes, he did. This one, let's see. How about we throw in the word rock and roll? Let's throw in the word rock and roll.
Ringing any bells?
Yes!
Awesome.
Elvis Presley. So, there were a lot of 50s music people that popped up, but I had to pick one of them. Elvis Presley.
Okay. He's great.
And rock and roll made its debut in 1956. In 1956, rock and roll made its debut, and Elvis shot to the charts. And did you know that once the Beatles hit, Elvis went away?
Really?
The hysteria around Elvis went away once the Beatles hit.
The boy band craze went away.
But that was in the 60s. So, one of the things came out in the 50s that I did not know about, we carry here, that you like a lot. And so what were they? Legos actually made their debut in the 50s. Can you believe that?
And the cool part that you told me was that they actually weren't even popular
No.
until a handful of years later.
No, because boys liked erector sets. You know, they weren't sure what to do with Legos. And they were larger.
Were Capguns a thing then?
Oh, yeah, Capguns were a
Or
thing.
like, what are they called? Skeet shooters? Where you
The
throw the
Cowboys
disc
and
and you shoot 'em?
Indian. Well, that's if you were rich. Cowboys, because you do it off a boat.
Noted, okay.
Skeet shooting, she's referring to.
Yeah.
And skeet shooting usually happens off a boat, and you have to be rich.
Okay,
For
noted.
the most part, to do that. And even if you're, I knew a few rich people, and I didn't know anybody who did skeet
Who
shooting.
had skeet shooting? Because, I mean, come on. Like,
It's
ask.
kind of like cricket.
Yeah, literally. It's like an old person.
It's hilarious because it's like, what is that one? A polo. It's like a sport with polo.
Wait, or am I getting it confused with shuffleboard? That's where you, like,
Oh,
push
that's
the thing and then
50s.
you
Shuffleboard would be
the
50s.
ice. Is that what that is?
No, you're thinking of for the ice for Canadians.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember. That's actually a current thing
Oh, okay.
where they put the heavy thing
And
on
then you
the
gotta,
ice.
like, you go in front of it, and you gotta, like, scrub
Like,
the ice so that
yeah.
it goes faster.
Curling. That's curling.
Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
So, what the heck were we talking about? What's shuffleboard?
Shuffleboard is a board. Or you push it and it knocks the thing out. It's a form of curling, but not curling.
Okay, I'll have to look at that
Yeah.
because I don't know what the difference is.
Yes, curling. So,
Lisa, you were so smart.
so those of you
She needs
who
to watch every show.
I know, right? She works though, and sometimes, a lot of times, it's at night. What are some of your guys' favorite things that came out in the 50s? Let me know, like Universal Monsters,
Artists?
Artists, Chuck Berry, and what did you say? Little Richard.
What's your favorite TV dinner, guys? I have to know. Was it Kid Cuisine? Was it Swanson? Was it Marie Callender?
None of those were around in the 50s. Only Swanson.
Well, they're still a TV dinner.
Oh yeah, today. Stouffer's for me.
Okay, great choice.
Right, Sherry? I said the same thing. I said one of the best things that came out of the 50s was my mother. No, my father was 48.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. Mom, wasn't my dad born in 48? Or in the late 40s, I think? I think he was in
Turkey
the 40s.
dinner? Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was older than my mother, so my mother was born in 50.
Okay.
So it has to be the 40s. So he wouldn't have been born in the 40s, or in the 50s.
Swanson veal. They make veal TV dinners?
The fact that veal anyway,
I know, that's what I'm saying.
it's like having...
Well, if she likes it, it's gotta
no,
be
no,
good.
no, I'm sure it's good. I'm just not a veal fan.
No, for sure.
You know, eating veal for me, I don't care if it can be fresh veal. It's like eating sushi at a gas station.
I think my favorite part about our shows on Tuesdays is sometimes we have like drive-byers and they drive by
Real slowly to see what we're
slow,
doing.
and I can skim through the window and I know they can see me too.
What else do people write? Swanson's, turkey dinner. I love it. I love that you guys are talking with us. So hula hoops, that was a trip.
It says we reuse the metal plate.
Yeah, did you? You know what? I read that they would reuse the metal plate.
What metal plate?
Well, because when Swanson's was originally done, and all the way up to the 70s, it was done in tinfoil plates. They were like tinfoil plates.
Then how did you put it in the microwave?
You didn't have a microwave!
See, I didn't put it in the
They
oven.
go in the oven.
That probably took forever.
I love your 25-year-old mind.
Someone's laughing.
That's fantastic. I love it. So, see, that's why we have these shows, and that's why I'm so happy that you're here, because this is how it works. I love it.
The first thing I thought was like, it's going to explode. What do you mean the metal plate?
Heated leftovers in the oven, yeah. Yeah, they had to take them out of tinfoil. And put them in
Yeah.
paper.
Or
Yeah,
like
because
plastic.
you couldn't put them in there. Yeah, hard plastic. So I love you for that right now. That was fantastic. So another thing that I thought was interesting was DNA.
Oh yeah, so like DNA was a thing. Obviously we knew about it, but they didn't know what to do with it, how to research it.
Mm-mm.
They just pulled it up on a computer one day and said, okay, this is the makings of a human being, but like what do we do with that?
Jiffy Pop.
Oh, they still
It
make
sound
it now.
actually. I'm going to say yes because I just watched a special with Steve from the 50s. No, maybe that was the 60s. And it was Jiffy Pop on the counter.
When was Jiffy Pop made?
So it's highly possible, yes.
The answer I found is 1958.
58. Jiffy Pop was
1958.
1958. Thank God for phones.
It also says here, Jiffy Pop is a popcorn brand. The products consisted of kernels, oils, and flavoring agents. Covered in foil in a disposable aluminum pan, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that was about it.
I'm going to tell you, we wrote down a lot of what happened in the 1950s here. But like I said, the 50s was the booming section. I mean, everything. Everything was invented. Everything. It seems like everybody had a ton of
ideas,
a ton of hope for the future, and they did. That's what it was. It was post-war. So it was post-World War II. It was things were getting back to normal. Things seemed to be going good.
Aw, that is so nice. Thank you. We
What?
appreciate that. They said just popping in to watch your show. Don't get to watch it, but this is one of their favorite best stores in St. Clair Shores.
Oh, thank you so much. So yeah, I forgot. That just threw my mind off.
Yes, Steve, that is correct. She was using Jiffy Pop in the Scream opening.
Yeah, she was. Yep. Oh, she sure was. Yep. So, what else? What was I saying? I lost it.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's no right. So, what else do I have here?
DNA.
Oh, DNA. That's what I was talking about. So, DNA was discovered, but they didn't know exactly what it meant to the human body, and then they did know, and then it was very expensive to run.
Oh, of course.
So they didn't start using DNA until probably the 70s here and there, and then the 80s more common, and then it just snowballed. So now we identify ourselves based solely off DNA.
We do have, did you pull them out, the drive-through speakers?
I do.
Someone did bring that up.
Was it Steve?
No, it was
Oh.
not. They were on Instagram.
Yeah, look. So,
Katie's mom. That's what it says.
so look, drive-in speakers, and we're going to talk about drive-in for a few seconds now. So, Bill on here, who was Antiques Photo 1300. Okay, it's heavy. You can pull it right out of that.
Okay, nice.
It's just the top, yeah. He bought our drive-in speaker from that we had when it was the Gratiot Drive-In, which used to be right up here with the big waterfall. These are standard drive-in. They're not based off a certain theater, but drive-ins were great. And drive-ins were huge in the 50s. Family time at the drive-in. This one has never been to a drive-in. I told her to go. She would enjoy it. So these you would take off the rack and set on your window.
And this is if you need, like, something, right? Like a drink or, like, popcorn
No,
or something?
that's what the movie played from.
But the button.
No, because there was no such... That was probably volume.
Oh, okay.
That was probably
Oh,
volume.
okay.
Yeah, because they had a concession stand, and you had to go get it.
Okay.
Yeah. It was all self-service. 100% self-service. I wish we could have pressed the button and requested.
That'd be sick.
So, drive-ins were big. Drive-ins maintained their popularity all the way through the 70s into the early 80s and then disappeared. And you can still find them here and there. And I was suggesting that she go because I think you'd enjoy it. They do double features here.
Yes, and I have to.
Yeah, at the Ford Drive-In. There's also one in Sturgis, a throwback that they redid. Quick story. When my dad, this was the 70s, when my dad would put me and my brothers into the car to take us to a movie, my stepmom and my dad would be in the front, my little brother in the front with them until he got a little bit older, but then the rest of us got in the trunk. That way they didn't have to pay for all of us.
For the tickets, LOL.
And it was fine until we were going home, and if it was a scary movie or something that bothered us, we still had to get in the trunk to leave.
Imagine.
So the 70s and back, even the 50s, just get in the trunk.
Just get in the trunk. It's easier that way, no questions asked.
Do you know when they pick us up from, like, my dad would come down and pick us up from the Mill Pond, which was the lake in the town we lived in. He'd make us sit in the trunk with the trunk open to drive home.
To dry off?
No, why he drove home. It was a small town, so
It was only a 3 minute
we all
ride.
three would be in the back of the trunk.
Yeah, get some
My
air
mom's
dry.
probably going, if he wasn't dead, I'd kill him.
But yes, we have lots of cool stuff. Poodle skirts, Disney,
Oh.
Barbie,
As well as 1950s dresses
Yes.
and other skirts.
and
I mean,
accessories, hair pieces, hats, purses, gloves.
I would love to bring it all onto our show, except for you have to. It's the whole store.
It would be longer than an hour. It'd be like
Yes,
5.
and so with you have to come in because if you love the '50s and the '50s being such a huge decade,
Oh, absolutely.
you can always find something from the '50s. If you're buying a Christmas or a birthday gift or a holiday gift, a Father's Day gift, anything. What?
Tammy's like, we got it in the trunk too, LOL.
Tammy, I probably got in the trunk with you. Oh no, this is a different Tammy. Oh, because my friend that I grew up with, or that I was my best friend in grade school.
Heck yeah.
I'm still friends with her.
Aw.
And she lived right down the street from me.
So y'all probably share the same trunk.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you that we probably did. It's hilarious.
I love
I
that.
know, that 70s was the trunk thing.
That's so cute.
It was fun. And you know what? I have such great memories of it.
Aw.
Today, they'd probably be arrested for child abuse.
I just live vicariously through him, so.
Well, through the 70s, yeah. So the 50s, look at this. You see this? This is just part of what was hot during the 50s.
List can literally go on
It can go on forever. I didn't talk about polio vaccine. I didn't talk about Hayward Wakefield, who made the very first office desk. And the day he made that office desk and somebody bought it, from 1954 to 1956, more Hayward Wakefield home office desks were bought than
And
any other piece of
everybody had one.
furniture.
Literally.
Because people thought it was a great idea to work from home.
Yes, it is.
Isn't that crazy?
It's a great idea to work from home.
What time is it? We're just going to town. So anyways, as you can tell, we love the 50s.
It's one of my favorites.
It's one of my favorites in style, design, and what they built.
What year was Grease?
Grease was filmed in 72, but
So
it was the
whisper it.
1950s. So Grease was filmed, the Grease show was set in the 50s.
Okay.
It was filmed in the 70s.
Okay.
But it was set in the 50s. So yes, the Greasers, the Pink Ladies, that's kind of a school. And if you remember, the opening scene happened at a drive-in.
Yes. Okay. I just wanted to make sure before I brought it up because I actually just made David, my other half, watch that movie for the first time, and he, was singing along to all the songs, and now he really likes that movie. I can't believe his mom never showed it to him.
Yeah, she may not have liked it.
That's a shame.
You never know.
It's a great movie.
So, the 70s great too. A lot of people a lot of people watching were probably kids in the 70s. You know what I mean? But I'm thankful for the 50s. It made me, because my
Heck
mother
yeah.
was born in the 50s, so if it wasn't for her being born in the 50s,
We wouldn't
I
have
wouldn't
you.
be here. Same with your parents.
Heck
even
yeah.
though they didn't give birth to you,
I still wouldn't be here.
you still wouldn't be here. And then, yeah,
I love the 50s.
I do too. I love the 50s. I didn't like the politics of the 50s because it was the beginning of the Cold War, which
But I like
is...
the outfits.
Yes.
And the colors of cars, because everything was pastel and cute and like floral
And you can
color.
find all these crazy little home remedies about how to handle your husband.
like Aqua Fatana. If you guys have never heard of that, I definitely would.
What is that?
Aqua Fatana was she put it in cute little bottles like this,
Uh-huh.
and it was sold as a cosmetic, but it was actually a poison that you put in your husband's food.
Poison rings.
Literally.
Well, it was big for housewives to take speed too because they had to do so much. It was so
'Cause
hilarious. It wasn't even hilarious. It was so wrong at what they had to have done in the time frames they had to have them done. So in order to do that, besides cleaning the house, getting the kids ready, making sure the kids were bathed and then dressed by the time Dad got home so they could see them. I mean, I was reading this thinking, why didn't these women kill their husbands?
We have two signs here. I don't know why I didn't pull them out. And talking about that, one
Yeah.
sign says, "Here's the final cost of what it is to be a housewife," and it's a breakdown like maid,
It's
laundry,
ridiculous.
cook, child care. Then we have another one that is also like a checklist, and it's like dry erase on a
Yes,
mirror.
Stepford Wives. It absolutely was. Have you ever seen Stepford Wives?
No, I have not.
Watch it. It's exactly what the 50s housewife had to be.
Oh, okay.
Like prim, proper, everything's good, blah. And, if you watch Miss Maisel, it is very similar, where some women would get up hours prior to their husband so that they could actually look like they did when they met them every morning they wake up.
Imagine.
I'm sorry, no one means that much to me. Actually, I would do it. I say that, but I don't think
I get up really
I say
early,
that,
but do you
but I
think
don't.
I have myself together?
Please,
No.
today's the first day I actually went out and did my walk first thing in the morning. So, I'm sorry if you see us leaning in. People are typing in. Yes, Miss Maisel. I know, I loved it. I didn't watch all of it. I've seen like 3 seasons, 4 seasons. Steve watched it all. I'm not a big, huge stand-up comedy fan, and it's mostly stand-up comedy.
Sure.
But I did love the dresses. I did love the Tupperware parties. I did love all of that, and I did see those. But, what time is it? 7:29?
Yep.
All right.
Well, thank you for joining us
Yes,
today.
and remember, these poodle skirts are here. They're available. We're going to be putting them on our Etsy store soon, but they are larger sizes, so they're not the 1950s,
Super small
10-year-old boy
skirts,
body
yeah.
outfits. And remember, when you go into a vintage clothing store and it's the 1950s, do not get depressed over the sizes. 1950 was different than today. Okay? A size 12 today, if you are a size 16 or a size 12, you are not going to be a size 16 or a size 12 in 1950, 60, 70, or 80.
And I had to tell myself that working here because I would try clothes on endlessly, and they would, even though it would say my size, it would never be my size. And the same thing goes with streetwear too. Like I'll look at Jason and say, "This is supposed to be a 1X. It looks like a medium.
Yes.
And it's small."
So remember, we can thank Swanson's
Yes, for
TV
the
dinners.
obesogens.
And for the obesogens, and then, of course, the human growth hormones they put in the food for brittle bone disease. But don't be sad. Don't be thinking you're fat because you're not.
Eventually, we will find something. Like, I find clothing here all the time that are still vintage and that are still antique that do fit me. It just takes a little bit of time, and you might just need to find something that's a little bit later in that time frame.
And just understand it is all things from the 1950s are vintage. They are
Fragile.
older. They have lived a life. So we who are older, we are not perfect. So don't expect something from the 1950s to be perfect.
Period.
So anyways,
Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And in the comments, you guys have been so great today.
Yes, thank
Let's
you.
keep the ball rolling.
Yes.
And in the comments
So-
while we're signing off, let us know what your favorite part of the 50s were.
next week we're going to be talking about the 60s, the transitional decades.
Yep.
Because there's a few transitional decades, and 60s is one of them, meaning that the beginning of the 60s it was 1950s. It was the poodle skirt,
The
the stuff
debut of
like
a lot
that.
of things.
In the middle of the 60s, it was laughing, bright colors, and
Smiley face
smiley
everything.
faces and stuff like that. By the end of the 60s, we're going into hippie and post
Flowers and peace
hippie,
signs and browns
peace
and
signs.
greens,
So
oranges.
throughout our life, we have transitional decades, and the 60s was one, as well as the 80s was one, as
Absolutely.
well as the 30s was one, 20s kind of was one. So this is when a major theme is ending, and so it takes a decade for them to
Catch up.
regroup,
For sure. Absolutely.
try different things. So the 60s is a major
Shift.
shift
For
in
sure.
culture, music, technology,
Everything.
everything. So we look forward to seeing you next week on the 1960s show.
I can't wait. Again, in the comments, you guys have done great today. Keep the ball rolling and let us know in the comments right now what your favorite thing is about the 50s. Was it the cars? Was it the food? Did you have a favorite dress? Or what about your favorite song? We want to hear about it.
Also, like I said, next Tuesday is the 60s. The Tuesday after that, we are pausing the decade shows, and we are going to be talking with the LGBTQ plus society. We're going to be having some special guests. We're going to be talking to Maria as well as to another special guest that we have who's coming, and that will be identified
Later
come
on.
soon.
Yeah.
And then we're still looking for one other person. Hopefully
Yes.
we will get.
I'll get to her
And
tonight.
we will be talking about the people in the LGBTQ plus society that actually contributed and made a huge difference in our society in things we use every
Every
day.
day.
Like what I'm
On right now.
feeling on. So, and then we're going to be talking about the very first transgender woman in America.
And I can't wait for that. It's going to be
Yes,
lit.
I actually wrote her name down, handed it to her, and said, "This is your research."
Literally.
I did. So, anyways, I look forward to that. That's in 2 weeks, and then we have some special shows coming.
Heck yeah.
Please,
Be there, be square.
yes.
Be there or
Thank
be
you
square.
guys, and you guys have a great night. Thank you for jumping in and being so interactive today.
Yeah, I know.
loved
Today
it.
was great. Keep
I
it
know.
going for
Yeah,
next
it
week.
made us feel good. So, I promoted it, so maybe I should do that more. Anyways, have a good night, you guys.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye, Instagram. Facebook, we're still on. Bye,
Oh,
Facebook.
hi.